Hello everyone. My name is Hiren. I am co-organizer of GDG Ahmedabad, and today I welcome you all on this webinar on Saturday evening. Thank you all for joining us. I hope you all are safe, staying safe, and you and your loved ones are safe at home and doing well. Today we have a session on JavaScript Essential. This session will help you in understanding the basic but very important concepts of JavaScript, which you may have used it in past, but you will never know that this can do this functions, or this concept can do some other things as well. So this webinar is for everybody, whether you are an experienced person or not, or the fresher. This is going to help you in terms of understanding those concepts in very good manner, and it will help you prepare for your next project on JavaScript or your interview. For this session, for today's session, we have a teacher who don't need any introduction. You all must be knowing him. He is very active in all across the developer communities. And so without any further delay, let's welcome our teacher for the day, Dhananjay Kumar. Hello, sir.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome. Hello, sir. Welcome
Thank
to
you.
GDG Ahmedabad. So he is our teacher for the today. He is GD MVP, and he is organizer of one of the largest Angular conference in India. And today he is going to teach you about JavaScript. So over to you, teacher.
Thank you. Can you show my screen now?
Yes.
All right. So good evening, everyone. I suppose just to cross-check, let me know whether you are able to hear my voice clearly. Just use the chat, YouTube chat, to let us know my voice is audible to you and you are able to see my screen clearly. All right. So I assume we are good to go. Now, today what we are going to do, my name is Dhananjay Kumar, and today I'll come back to my introduction later. Today we are going to cover some of these topics. We'll see that how time permits and how much time we do have. And on basis of that, we would cover this. One thing before I start our talk today, I would like to bring to your attention that there is nothing called basic or there is nothing called advanced when it comes to a language. Language is not like mathematics that, okay, for me, standard 7 mathematics is basic and standard 8 mathematics is advanced. Language does not work that way. What you know, what feature you know about a language is basic for you. What you do not know about a language is advanced for you. So language features are not step by step by step by step. It is like, it may be that you are an expert of the whole object-oriented vertical of JavaScript, but you don't know what is closure. So in that case, closure is advanced topic for you, but you are a master of prototype. In the same way, you might be only doing functional programming with JavaScript. You have never written any object. You have never indulged in any object side of JavaScript. So you may be master of closure and you have no idea what is prototype. In that case, for you, closure is basic and prototype is advanced. What message I am trying to convey you is this notion is not correct, that this is basic or that is advanced. And the second thing is that that JavaScript is going to be the language of communication among the developers. If you are a CTO of a company and you wish to talk to a fresher of your company, the language in which you communicate other than English would be JavaScript. Unless and until if you are not doing machine learning and all, which is Python. So this is the high time to learn JavaScript and to learn it really good. The problem with JavaScript, or the beauty with JavaScript, is that if I ask you 10 questions in JavaScript, and if you ask me 10 questions in JavaScript, 6 or 7 of my guess would be correct, and it gives us an illusion that we really need no JavaScript. uh, and actually we do not know JavaScript in detail as we should be knowing. Whenever you see a tweet that, hey, you don't need to learn JavaScript, directly jump to Angular, directly jump to React, do TypeScript and all, please keep in mind those people are not your friend. They are not giving you a good advice. Eventually, JavaScript is something that it will come and knock your door as a developer if you are into the domain of JavaScript. So this is the time to learn. I'll start with a very simple quiz for you, and then we'll go. So let's say that I have one object here, and let's say that here I have an object called foo. All right, and this object has a name property. That name property is called foo, and it has an age property that is 30. Now you have a requirement here. In JavaScript, you can create an object like this. This is called object literal, and this let means this is going to be the scope to a particular block. So here, let's say that you have to print all these properties and values of this object. There are multiple ways you can do that. One of the most popular way is if I need to print key and value, and value is object dot entries, right? Now here is the object dot entries. If I pass this foo in that, it should return me something, and I'm saying let a equal to object dot entries, and then I can say console dot log and a. And if I run this, here you see that I'm getting as a key value pair those properties of the object. And I'm sure most of you already know this. Most of you already know that what is the purpose of object.entries. Now, what happens and what makes me sad seeing this Twitter trend as a teacher, that now people would start doing this. What would be the output? It doesn't work that way. You need to understand the concept. People would start doing this. What is the output? As if JavaScript has become kaun banega crorepati. If you really understand the concept of object.entries, you really don't have to guess it. Object.entries, and now I'm going to show you, I'm going to teach you, the first learning of today is that how you need to learn what a particular method or what a particular feature of JavaScript does. So if you go, and this is your first learning of the day, if you go to the official specification of JavaScript on that website, I'm not talking about MDN or documentation or any blog. I'm talking about a specification of JavaScript. That says, and you got to remember any functionalities like that, such that you would never miss that. You'll never do the guessing game. That says that in object.entries, if let us say you are passing an object O as an input, means here you are passing O, right? So in this case, foo, first it checks, JavaScript checks whether the O is undefined or null. It says that, hey, first thing JavaScript will check that whether you have, here you are passing foo, that foo is undefined or null. So let's see that what it does. Here I'm passing undefined in object.entries, and you might have come across this kind of astronomical amount of quiz on internet, that what would be the output. Now, what official spec says that, hey, if O is undefined and null, then cannot convert undefined or null to an object. It throws you a type error. So what it does here, that when it finds that O is equal to null or undefined, it sends you a type error. Please keep in mind, it is not a reference error. So even if you pass null, it will not pass you the reference error, it will pass you the type error. If step 1 is passed, then what it does, go to the step 2. In step 2, it checks that whether O is a primitive types. Primitive types means whether it's an integer or boolean and all those things, right? So let's pass an integer here. I'm passing one here object in object.entries. So what JavaScript says that if object.entries has passed step 1, means it is not null or undefined, and then if it is a primitive types, then it will not throw you error. But JavaScript has an internal abstract method. So if you read the official documentation, there's something you will see this term a lot called abstract methods or abstract operation. Abstract method, abstract operations means they are the internal to JavaScript language and they are not available to us as a developer. So JavaScript has an internal abstract method called toObject. So if you pass in toObject a primitive type, what it does, it creates a type for an object for that using the corresponding class. So here, if you pass a number, it will create a number object. And in that case, what would happen? Your object.entries will return you an array, because that object, empty array, because it has created the object out of the primitive types, but that object does not have any properties. So this is the second step JavaScript does for your object.entries. For object, then if O is a real object, which is in this case, if O is a real object, then what it does, it go to the further steps. Then it will go and it has one abstract method, if I'm not missing the name, called enumerate own properties. Something like that. This name could be incorrect, but something like that. Again, this is an abstract method, means you cannot use it. It is for the internal. So it will use this enumerate on properties method and find out all the own and enumerable properties of this object. So here there are two keywords. Those keywords are own and enumerable. All right, and then it will return them as an array, which you are getting here. So in this case, you are getting here the array, because O is foo is your object. Now let us talk about this own and enumerable. Now what is the own property and what is the enumerable properties of a JavaScript object? So for a JavaScript object, here you see that foo has two properties, name and age. By default, both are enumerables. Means when you use them, let's say inside a for statement, you say that let p in foo, JavaScript should able to return you that. So here if I say p, you see that a name and age is returned. But I can make properties non-enumerable by using object property descriptors. So the second thing what I'm going to teach you is object property descriptor. You can go, you can do like something like this: object dot define property, and then pass object name, then property name, let's say age, and then you can pass this object property descriptor, and here you can say enumerable as false. Now what happened, that you have made age as non-enumerable, means it is this particular abstract method enumerate own properties will not return that property. All right, because that age property is not enumerable. So now if you see the output in the bottom, object.entries only returns you name, it does not return you the age property, because that is not enumerable, and that you can see here in the output. Then the second thing is own property of an object. So let's say that I have another object called Ku, and Ku has let's say one property called city as Delhi, and there are multiple ways to do that, but here what I'm saying, foo dot proto is equal to Ku, means I'm linking these two objects together. I'll come to proto later in today class. So here I'm saying that foo.proto equal to Ku. All right. So when you see this for loop, as of now, I'm going to comment this console.log and just focus on the output of for loop. So when you focus on the output of for loop, see it is returning you name and city both. Let's get rid of this object dot define property as well. It returns you name, age, and city. Means it returns you properties from the object and properties from its prototype objects as well. All the objects which are linked as a prototype. And here you get name, age, and city. However, now if I go and show you this output of object.entries, you see you only get name and age. You don't get the property from the prototype chain, because enumerate own properties abstract method only returns properties own and enumerable from the object. So that is how the algorithm works. And the last point is that if you pass extra parameter, JavaScript will ignore that. What does it mean? That if you pass here 45 to whatever, JavaScript is going to ignore the extra parameters, right? So what I tried to explain you here is I could have easily come and told and taught you that object.entries does this, object.entries does that. But if you remember this algorithm from line number 24 to line number 31, and you can find this algorithm in official spec document of JavaScript TC39, you will never guess that how object.entries work. You will never guess that, okay, what would be the output? Okay, I'm passing undefined, I'm passing null. You only have to remember this algorithm about object.entries. And every time you know what object.entries will have as a behavior. So I strongly recommend each one of you to get rid of this MDN document now. Go and learn a spec, and from there try to find, then learn MDN document, and then you should be fine. So the first learning what we did, we just covered object.entries, and also in that we saw that how a spec doc can be read, and a little bit we talked about enumerable and proto. All right, so that was our learning number 1. Let's go to learning number 2. And that is different types of functions. And please note down your questions on your pen and paper and notepad. We will get those questions at the end. So I guess here I am fine. Just a minute, give me a moment. Okay, next what we are going to do, that what are the functions, different types of functions. So in JavaScript, you can create a function actually in 4 ways. A function can be created in 4 ways. And the first way of creating a function is called function declaration or function statement. All right, so let's say you create a function like this, function add, and pass to number num1 and num2, and then you'll say that let res equal to num1 plus num2, and as of now, let's say console return a result. Okay. And then we can use this function here, let a equal to add, let's pass two parameters 7 and 2, and console.log a. So pretty simple code, you are getting 9 here. So when you create a function like this is called function statement or function declaration. The main feature of creating function statement and function declaration is that it gets hoisted, this function gets hoisted on the top of your execution context. So if you don't understand execution context, here you can assume that this demo.js is this file is one execution context. So top of this would be, let us say, line number 1. And since a function declaration or function statement gets hoisted on the top of the execution context, you can very much call that function before you created that, and you'll get expected output like this. So when you create a function like this, keep in mind, doesn't matter where you are creating it, you can use that function throughout that execution context. So when you create a function like this is called function declaration or function statement. The second way of creating a function is called function expression. Now what happens in function expression is there would be a left-hand side and right-hand side. So I can say var add equal to function, something like that. And when you create like this is called function expression. All right. The thing with function expression is that it does not get hoisted on the top of the execution context. What does it mean? That if you try to call this function before you created it, see what behavior JavaScript tells you. So when you create a function like this, or when you declare an expression, even if a normal variable, actually what JavaScript does, it internally breaks this into two statements. Statement number one would be like this: var add equal to undefined, let's say, and then statement two would be like this. So this is actually the declaration part with the value undefined gets break into another statement, and then where you are creating the real function, in that line the real function gets assigned to that particular variable. And what JavaScript does, it takes this statement and put it on the top of the execution context. So the value of add in between top of the execution context, let us say line number 1 and line number 16, where you have created that function expression, is undefined. So if you try to access, if you try to call this function in between line number 1 and line number 16, you know that JavaScript would give you some error because value of add is undefined. So let's see that what actually JavaScript gives you an error. So here it was like this, var add, and let's run this. And of course we are getting error, and the error is type error. Add is not a function. Means JavaScript is not complaining here that it does not know what is add. JavaScript is telling us very clearly that, hey, I know what is add. It's just you cannot call it as a function. And now you know the reason that JavaScript knows that in between line number 16 and top of execution context, the value of add is actually undefined, and you cannot call undefined as a function, which you can see here, and that's why you are getting the type error. So that is one major difference between function statement and function expression. That function statement gets hoisted on the top of the execution context. It means you can use it before you created it. However, a function expression does not get hoisted on the top of the execution context. You can use it only after you declared it. So these two types of functions are there in JavaScript from very beginning. The third way of creating a function is using the function constructor. Sorry for that. Using the function constructor, and you should never, until you don't have very solid region, you should never use that. Now the most popular way and the most, the confusing way of creating function is nowadays is arrow function. And if you are on my Twitter, you might have seen that since morning a lot of discussion going on around arrow function. Now first understand the basic characteristics of arrow function. The first thing is that, of course, arrow function gives us a shorter syntax to write function expression, not function statement. It means arrow function also does not get hoisted on the top of the execution context. It is like function expression. So I can write this code, this function as a function expression like this. So I can say var add equal to num1, num2, and then here I can say let. I can take this from here and put it, and then let me comment this. It should work fine. Here you are getting 9. So this is how you write an arrow function. Arrow function, of course, gives you shorter syntax. Arrow function has certain things. For example, if arrow function has only one parameter, like here you are passing two arguments. If it has only one parameter, you can get rid of that small bracket. So you can say where foo equal to something like this. You can say name, and then here let's say that you say that return name, and so console.log foo. You see that it should give you foo. So if you have only one parameter, you can get rid of this small bracket as well, and it should work perfectly fine. That is one thing you should know. Second thing is that if you have zero parameters, means there is no argument, then you must have to give this parameter, this small bracket, and it is giving us error because, of course, now it should be fine. All right, so this is how you pass the parameters. Now the second thing is that how it returns the statement. If you have only one statement, like let us say only one statement here, and let me pass this name. Okay, sorry, if you have only one statement like this, in your arrow function, you can get rid of that return statement as well, and this would be return. This would return from the arrow function. Now, the one special thing about arrow function syntax is that how it returns an object. So let us say that from this arrow function, I want to return an object. So what I can do, I can like this, I can say, and this is what I prefer. I can say return object, and let's say name ABC. So it will return us an object, and here you are getting an ABC. But as I told you that that if you have only one statement, you can get rid of the return thing. So you may think that, okay, if you have to return an object, you can this should be fine. You can do like this. But here you see that you are getting undefined, because if you are returning an object, then either you have to use return statement explicitly, or you have to put that inside to a small bracket, and it should return you an object. So again, many people do this, and again, these are the questions you get on the Twitter. They say, I guess I messed up something, but you understand what if you have to return an empty object, how will you do that? You will do this, then you will do this, then this, then this, and now let us say you don't want to call them, so you put them inside this, and then to call that function, you'll put this code, and then this is something is immediately invoked, and it is returning an empty object. And to understand, this code actually returns an empty object. But again, I am a big fan of writing code which can be understood by other people. So this may many people may not able to understand that. So instead of this, I would prefer return a statement to return an object, what I shown you earlier. So this was about the syntax of arrow function. You should know that, and you know that. That is super fine. But arrow function is much more different than that from the other functions. And I'm coming to those differences. Now, what I'm going to explain you is next. So you learned about arrow function. Next, so here we just learned this. The second thing we learned about all types of functions. All right, next, how arrow function is different than other functions, and whatever I'm going to talk is now true for either you create a function statement or you create a function declaration. So here I am, as of now, let me comment this, and uncomment this and say function add. Now every function in JavaScript, when you call a function in JavaScript, every function in JavaScript has an arguments object. So besides these parameters, JavaScript also pass an arguments object in these functions. So here, if you check console.log arguments.length, you should get a value 2, because with each parameter in the function, JavaScript pass one extra parameter called arguments, and that arguments is like an array. It is not an array, but it is like an array, like an object, and it contains information about all the parameters you are passing in that. What does it mean? That here, instead of that num1, you can say arguments 0, and you should able to get the out. So every function has an arguments object. However, okay, I'll come to that later. So here you can pass, even if there is num1 and num2, here you can pass extra parameters. And if you want to access those extra parameters, you can access them using the arguments object. So here, let's say that I say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. If I put arguments 4, I should be able to get 5, 5, 7 as an output. All right. So arguments allows you to access those parameters, and you can completely even get rid of this and just can work with the arguments. So by default, JavaScript functions are overloaded. Now the thing with arguments is, the problem with arguments is it contains information about all the parameters, whether it's a named parameter, it's num1 and num2 are the named parameters which are assigned to 7 and 2. It contains information about all of them. The other thing is that JavaScript has, in JavaScript, a function can have a nested function. So let's say that this function has one function called add intern. Now this function here, let's say that I want to perform this operation inside add intern. Now what happens that add has its own arguments and add intern has its own arguments. Means this add has its own arguments object, add intern has its own argument object. So there's no way this internal function, there's no direct way this internal function can access arguments object of the external function. Because this arguments object is a keyword. If we try to do this, you see that we are getting here. Okay, let me get rid of this result. As of now, so if you let's say that here I am going and saying arguments dot length. All right, and let me comment this. So when we and let's call this function add intern. All right, so when you call this, you see that here for the external add function, we are getting arguments.length 5. However, for the internal add function, you are getting it 0. If you pass one parameter here, you'll get 1. Because these two are the different arguments. They are not the same arguments. And there's no direct way the child function can access arguments object of the parent function. Of course, you can assign that to another variable and all. You can do those workarounds, but there's no direct way of doing that. So these are the two problems with arguments object. First is it contains information about all the parameters, not only the extra parameters. And second, there's no way a nested functions, a child function can access. There's no direct way a child function can access arguments object of the parent function. And as we talked earlier, that this arguments is not this argument object is not an array. So what does it mean? What does it mean that if you try to do this, let's say argument dot pop, JavaScript is going to give you error that arguments.pop is not a function. So these are the problems with arguments object. But these arguments object are there in function statement and in function expression. Now, one major difference between functions, function statement, and one major difference between arrow function and function statement and function expression is that function statement and function expression has arguments object. Arrow function does not have arguments object. So let's say that this is my arrow function. Let me call it add1. Okay, and let's just call add1 here. And if you try to do this right here, and let's get rid of this pop. Wow. We are calling add1 here, console.log. So arrow function does not have the, from where it is getting this arguments.length. Anyway, so just to understand is that arrow function does not have the arguments object. So what is the solution? In ES6, they came up with something called REST parameters. Now, what REST parameters does? It is exactly like the arguments, but it is solving the problems with the arguments object. We can pass REST parameter as the last parameter into the function with 3 dots. And here you can give any name. You can say REST, you can say extra parameter, you can say foo, whatever you want to give. So here I'm calling it as EP, means extra parameter. And this REST parameter, it contains only the extra parameter you are passing. So here if you say ep.length, you'll get output 3 because you are only passing these 3 parameters extra. And this is an array, means you can perform those array operations and everything on this. So here you can say console .log, and you can say ep. Let's say sort, and sort is a method of array. You see that you are getting output, and JavaScript does not complain about that. And of course, since it is a named parameter, so if you have an internal function, you can access that inside that. So let's say that if I have an internal function here, function A, and I can very much take that from the external function and can access that, right? So these are the advantage of REST parameter over the arguments object. REST parameter, arguments object is not an array. REST parameter is an array. Arguments object contains all the parameters. REST parameter only contains the extra parameters. There is no direct way REST parameter can access. Nested function can access arguments object from the parent function. REST parameter, since it is a name, you can access that. In arrow function, you have REST parameter, you don't have the arguments object. The other thing about REST parameters are, you cannot pass it into the middle. It should always be the last formal parameter. So if you try to do this, JavaScript throws you error here. REST parameter must be the last formal parameter. All right. So arguments object and REST parameter we have covered, and there's something called default parameter. Means if you say num2 equal to 7, and here you, let us say you are not passing that value. So if you don't pass that, what I have done, if you don't pass that, JavaScript will take that default value. If you pass some value for that named parameter, then that value will be used. So again, these REST parameters and the default parameters became part in ES6, and they are available in all types of functions. So here the third thing which we covered is arguments object, REST parameter, and default parameter. Now, let us see that how this return statement works, and that is very simple. If there is a expression, then that would be returned. If there is no expression and only the return statement, then undefined would be returned. And if there is no return statement, then undefined would return. That is a simplistic way of looking at a function. However, that is not entirely true. And the next thing what we are going to cover, so we have covered different types of functions and things related to that. We have covered these arguments and rest parameters. Next, we are going to cover this topic, calculating the value of this and different execution patterns. These will go together. So here what I'm going to do, let's say that I have this function add, and this function has a return statement called res. All right. So in JavaScript, you can, as you saw that, you can create a function in 4 ways. You can call a function in 4 ways also. A function can be called in 4 ways, and that is called invocation pattern. You can call a function in 4 ways, and that is called invocation pattern. So when you call a function like this, like here you see that I have a function add, and I'm calling that function like this. This is called function invocation pattern. So when you call a function like a function, that is called function invocation pattern. Okay. And I'll come to that. What are the other feature of function invocation pattern? You can go ahead and call this function using new operator as well. So if you call a function using new operator, what JavaScript does, that is called constructor invocation pattern. This is called constructor invocation pattern. In this case, what JavaScript does, that it will ignore this. It ignores this return statement, and it will always return you a newly created object in the constructor invocation pattern. The third way of calling a function is called method invocation pattern. And the fourth way of calling a function is called indirect invocation pattern. Now, you may have a question, my friend, and this is very important. Please understand this. You may have a question here that why there are 4 ways of calling a function. Okay, one difference you understood, that if I call it using the new, then it is going to return me newly created object. If I don't call it using the new, then it will behave like a function, and it will return me whatever this return statement is returning. Then what are the other 2 ways of, what are the purpose of other 2 ways of calling a function, and why this is? So in JavaScript, there are 4 ways of calling a function. I repeat, in JavaScript, there are 4 ways to call a function only to determine what is the value of this, what is the value of this object inside that function. You know, what is the value of this object inside a function will depend on how you are calling a function. So, for example, let me get rid of this here, num1 and num2. Let's say that I have this num1 and let me make it, let's say, product. Okay, so I have a function called product, and this product function takes title and price, and as of now there's nothing inside that, and get rid of this. Now let's say that I'm asking you that console.log this, what would be the value of this inside this function? And you see there is no other code in this file, there is only one this. And if I'm asking you this question, you are appearing for an interview, job interview, a client interview, that hey, what would be the value of this, what would be the output here? Now if you really know JavaScript, if you really understand beauty of JavaScript, you'd answer this question like a raw agent or a brain surgeon. You'll not answer this question like a police station in charge or a normal physician. Your answer would be that in this world, no one can say that what is going to be the value of this, what is going to be the output here. No one can say that. People start giving answers, global object, this, that. Less we know, more we talk, that's how it is. So people start giving answers, and as soon as when I take JavaScript interviews for my clients, as soon as I give this code snippet, and as soon as they start answering, I understand they may be right 6 times, 7 times calculating value of this, but they really don't understand the beauty, the story behind calculating the value of this. No one in this world can say what is the value of this inside this function product, because value of this depends on how you are calling that function. It does not depend on how you are creating that function. So value of this has nothing to do with, almost nothing to do with these statements. It has everything to do with these statements. And since right now there is no code which shows that how you are calling this function, no one in this world can say that what would be the value of this inside that. I hope I am able to convey the message correctly to you, what I mean here. So here we cannot say what is the value of this inside product. We cannot say unless and until we don't see how we are calling that function. So here I go and say, hey, val p equal to product, and let's say pass book, and then let's say pass 200. Now we can say what is the value of this inside the function. Now we are calling this function as a function. We are calling this function as a function invocation pattern. So when you call a function as a function invocation pattern, and I'll type it here. So when you, the first is FIP. When you call a function as a function invocation pattern, in that case, value of this will be always the global object. All right. So here you are calling this as a function invocation pattern, then the value of this inside product would be the global object. And since I'm running JavaScript in Node.js, here you see that it is giving me that global object right here, object global. So keep this line. If you are calling a function as a function invocation pattern, and this is true for almost true for arrow function invocation pattern. Sorry, this is true for function expression and function statement. Arrow function behaves little bit differently, which I'll explain you in a bit. So if you're calling a function statement and function expression as FIP, the value of this is going to be the global object, and that's why you are getting here this global object. I'll just go and change this to new. Now I'm calling this function as a new operator, and when I call this, you see that I'm getting a newly created object. So when you call a function add CIP, constructor invocation pattern, the value of this is going to be always the newly created object. So when you call this as a, so value of this should be always the newly created object. All right. And the third is very simple, which I'll show you. So let's say that I have a object called let dog, and dog has name. Let's say dog name is Foo. Dog age is 9, and dog has one function, display function. All right, and here if you say console.log this, so how you can call this display? You can call this display only as dog dot display. So when you do that, when you do this dog dot display, what you are doing in line number 30, you will get this output, the dog as the value of this inside the display function. So when you call a function like this is called method invocation pattern, because display is the method of dog. So in the method invocation pattern, value of this will be always the object before dot. If it is x dot foo, then the value of this would be x inside foo. All right. So in the method invocation pattern, you see that here you are calling display as a method in line number 39. So value of this would be this dog object which you are seeing here. So that is method invocation pattern. All right. So far so good. Now the challenge so far is, my friend, if you look at here, is the challenge is if you look at in FIP and CIP and MIP, the value of this is given to you by JavaScript. you are not controlling the value of this. If it is FIP, then it is always going to be the global object. If it is CIP, then it is always going to be the newly created object. And if it is MIP, then it is always going to be the object which is before the dot. So in all these three scenarios, you are not able to control the value of this inside a function. You are not able to manually control the value of this inside the function. But you may have a requirement where you may want to control value of this. You may want to manually pass value of this inside a function. So let's say that I have an object here. I have one object here, dog, and let's say that dog object is this, and then here I'm saying this dot title is equal to title, and this dot price is equal to price. All right. So now when I call this, I'm getting that product object, newly created object. What if here I just want that, or let me take a simplest example. Let's say that this function foo, just let's keep it simple as of now. So in this function foo, console.log and this, and you are calling that function foo as a function invocation pattern. So we are going to get this global object as the value of this. That is super fine. What if I want to pass this dog object as the value of this inside the function? So you have a requirement that, hey, what change I should do here in line number 41 such that here I get dog object for the this, not the global object. What should I do that? In that case, I'll call this function indirectly, and that is called indirect invocation pattern. Indirect invocation pattern, how you'll do that? We'll say that, hey, foo.call. There are three ways indirect invocation pattern works. They are called A, B, and C. A is apply, B is bind, and C is call. So if you use one of these, you are calling a function indirectly. And the whole purpose of calling this function indirectly is to pass the value of this manually, to control the value of this manually. So here I can say foo.call, and then I want to pass that dog object. So here I'm passing that dot object. I'm calling that indirectly. And if I run this, you see that now the value of this is that dog object. All right. So in that case, in that way, you can manually pass. If it has a parameter, let us say name. So if you are using call, you can pass that parameter in a comma separated way. So C for call, C for comma. You can pass here foo, and it should work. Instead of call, you can use apply also. But if you use apply, then you have to pass the extra parameters of the function inside an array. So C for what I did, C for call, and A for array. So call and apply works exactly the same way to manually pass the value of this inside a function. Apply, when in that will pass extra arguments, extra parameters in an array, and for call you'll pass extra arguments or extra parameters in a comma separated way. So that is what the fourth way of calling a function is, indirect invocation pattern. And in the indirect invocation pattern, the value of this is going to be you can manually pass value of this using A, B, and C. So now you understand that why we do have 4 ways of calling a function. There's a purpose. The 4 ways, the 4 invocation patterns is to make sure that you can control the value of this. And now I hope you'll never forget to calculate. Doesn't matter what code is that. Just see how complex is the code, how nested is the code. Just go and see that how you are calling that code. the value of this starts like a crime scene, right? Like if you have to find who is the culprit, you don't start investigation from the police station, you start investigation from the crime scene. In the same way, to find value of this inside a function, you don't start investigation from the function, you start investigation from the call site, from the place where you are calling the function. Then when you are at the call site, so let's say in this scenario you are at the call site here, so this is called line number 41 is the call site. Then you'll say that, okay, which type, in which way I'm calling that function. So by looking at the apply, you know that, okay, this is indirect way of calling a function, means this first parameter is going to be the value of this. So in that way, you can always calculate value of this. You'll never do mistake, and doesn't matter how complex is the code, you should able to get you should able to get the value of this. So this is correct, this is perfectly fine what I just told you, but this is not true for arrow function. This is only true for function expression and function statement. Let's see that what I mean by that. So you see that I'm able to pass this foo.apply dog foo, and I'm getting that dog object, right? And please everyone focus, this is going to be very important topic for next 5 minutes. So let me give you a 1 minute break so that we'll go to the next topic. Just 1 minute break so that you can consolidate whatever you have learned, write down the question and all things. Okay, and we are back in 30 seconds. All right, so now let us again see that if you look at the output in line number 41, function foo is a function statement, and I'm calling that using indirect invocation pattern, and I'm able to pass this dog object manually inside that as the value of this. So this is working perfectly fine. Now let's go ahead and change this function as an arrow function. So I commented that, and I can change that as an arrow function like this. Let's say that var foo equal to like this. We can do that. So this is how arrow function works, right? Now please look at the output. What you are getting, an empty object. Why you are getting an empty object is arrow function does not get the value of this object from the invocation pattern, from the calling site. It gets the value of this object always from the enclosing scope. It always gets it. Arrow function does not work on the late binding, means when you create an arrow function, at time of that, whatever is the object in the enclosing scope, it will take that as a value of this. It will not take, like how in function statement and function expression, it takes the value of this on basis of how you are calling that function. Arrow function does not work in that way. Arrow function takes always the value of this from the enclosing scope. That is one thing you should keep in mind. The second thing you should keep in mind, that you cannot call an arrow function var a equal to new foo. You cannot call an arrow function as a constructor. You cannot call an arrow function using the new operator. It will throw you error. It will give you error that foo is not a constructor. So again, when you read the spec document, arrow function internally does not have this method construct, and if it does not, since it does not have the construct method, you cannot call it using the using the new operator. Also, I'll come to that in a bit, but every function in JavaScript has something called prototype object. Okay, every function in JavaScript has a prototype object. Arrow function does not have. These couple of things you need to keep in mind about arrow function. That of course it is a shorter syntax, but besides that, it cannot be called as a constructor. It does not have the internal construct method, so you cannot use arrow function to create a new object. Arrow function does not have prototype object, prototype property. Arrow function does not have the arguments object, and arrow function always takes value of this from the enclosing scope. So the way you calculate value of this for function expression and function statement, for arrow function it does not work like that way. So for arrow function, this theory will not work. For arrow function, it is always the enclosing scope where you have created that arrow function. So now I hope you understand clearly about difference about arrow function and function invocation pattern and this and that. So let's see that how we are doing with the syllabus. So we have completed this different type of execution patterns. We have completed this. I'm coming to hoisting and scoping, arguments and rest parameter. We have completed that. Calculating the value of this, we have completed that. All right, so let's see that how much time we have and how much more we can cover. Let me show you hoisting and scoping a little bit, and then we'll see about other things. So in JavaScript, again, you have different types of hoisting. You have global scoping, you have functional scoping, you have lexical scoping, and then you have block level scoping. So let's start with the global scoping, which is the simplest one. So let's say that I have one var foo equal to 9 here, and then I have another function called, let's say, give me a function named abc, and here we say console.log foo, and then here we say console.log foo, and then call this function abc here, and it should get 99 because this foo is in the global scope. It is available throughout this scope, so you can access that inside the function, outside the function, and everywhere. Now if you go here and say that, hey, foo is equal to 99, so what would happen here? You are saying foo is equal to 99 means you are, let me open something, just a minute. Let me draw this diagram for you for a better explanation. All right, so here I am. All right, so let's say that right now what is happening, you have a global scope. So this is your global scope, means the whole .js file. Okay, that is your global scope, and inside that you have another scope for that function foo, which you have created. This is your function foo. All right, sorry, not function foo, that abc function. Now what happened that here you have created one variable called foo. So here you created that variable foo, and that foo is in the global scope, and the value is 9. You are accessing that variable here, so you are getting 9. Then you are accessing the same variable here, and you are getting 9. All right, so now you understand that why you are getting 9. Now what we have done, that here we are updating this value foo equal to 99. What does it mean? That here right now we have updated the same foo, we have updated that to this same foo, we have taken that and we have updated that to 99. So now what would happen when you print foo is here 9, but after this line the value of foo would be 99, right? So when you run this, you see you are getting 9 and 99. So this is how global scoping works. You are updating the same variable. Now let us go back and again, let me delete this and again draw this. And now I'm explaining you functional scope. So this is my global scope. All right. And inside that, I have one function called ABC. So that is the function scope. Now let me go and draw this. So here var foo equal to 9. But what I have done, what I'm doing here, I'm again creating a variable var equal to foo equal to 99. So when I do like this, what is happening actually? Now I have one foo. I have one foo here in the global scope. All right. In previous example, you remember the same foo was accessed here, but since I have used a var foo 99, means I'm creating a foo. I'm creating a foo here as well. So now ABC has its own foo. Now in your JavaScript file, here in my JavaScript file, in JavaScript code, in the context of JavaScript, I have two foo variables. One which lifetime, one foo, and lifetime of this foo is only this ABC. And then I have one foo variable of this variable of lifetime of this would be inside this particular thing. But up to here, you know, inside this function ABC, it has its own foo. This foo has been overshadowed. All right. So when you now run this here, if you say console.log foo and run this, you see that for this you are getting 99 expected because the value of foo is here 99, and here you are getting 9 because that is expected. These two are different foos. Now the thing is that what if I go here and say, so that is called functional scope, console.log and foo. All right. Now, this is where many people get confused. You just ask yourself, what should be the answer? Whether I'll give you three options, where the output would be 9, or output would be 99, or output would be undefined for this line number 28. Again, don't guess it. Understand it, what is happening. See, it's an expression, right? You remember how I explained you function expression means internally what JavaScript does, it will break this line 30 into two lines. It will break this like this, var foo equal to undefined, and then it will move this var foo equal to undefined on the top of your execution context. So in this case, top of the execution context, let's say line number 27, because ABC is one execution context, right? So it will take this foo and move it into the top of execution context, the declaration part. So here the declaration has been moved to the top of the execution context, and where you are declaring that variable, where is the real assignment happening. So in between line number 24 and 30, value of foo is 9. But in between line number 31 and 39, you have different foo, and line number 31 and line number 35, value of foo is undefined. With the same, because it is breaking into the two statement and putting the declaration on the top of the execution context, and ABC is a different execution context. So that's why if you run this now you know that you are going to get output. Here you will get output undefined, and now you know the answer, right? Because always it takes the expression, breaks into the two statement, put the declaration on the top of the execution context, and all that. So this is called functional scope, and that is the reason we always advise to the new developers that, hey, avoid declaring like this, because if you are doing this, you are actually updating the variable which is in the global variable. So this is called var foo. All right, and it is working fine. So this is called functional level scoping. The third is called block level scoping, which again became part in JavaScript ES6, and that you do using latest statement. So for example, if I have here if true, so this is a block, right? And I'm taking this and I'm, let us say, declaring this here, var foo equal to 99, and see, var is a function level scoping, so I should be able to get 99. But if I change this var to let, you see that I'm getting 9 and 9. You know why? Because this foo is actually the visibility of this foo is only this if statement. So actually with that you have created one more scope, and that is for that if statement, and that is why you are getting here 9, because in the top you have 9 here. So now you have different foo only for line number 32, line number 33, and that's why you are getting here 9 and 9. All right, and if you change it to where, you will get 99 and 9 expected. Now what I'm going to do, and this is very important, my friend, everyone please be with me, console.log, and here I call foo. What do you think should be the output of line number 32? You know the output would be undefined, right? Because this should be JavaScript will break that into 2 statement and everything. So for that you are getting undefined. Now what if I change this to late? I'm changing this to late, and please focus on the output. JavaScript complains about that. JavaScript is saying that, hey, foo is not defined, reference error. So if you are declaring something using var, you can, the value of that can be accessed before that, but the value would be undefined. But if you are accessing something, creating something with late, you cannot access that before it is created, and JavaScript is going to give you reference error for that, even not type error. And this area is called TDZ, temporal date zone. Means if you create something with late, so the line where you are declaring it, creating it, and the top of your execution context, the area between these two is called TDZ. JavaScript is not able to identify even foo exists, and you are not getting type error, you are getting reference error. So this is something very important you should keep in mind. All right, so this is called block level scoping or statement level scoping. We covered functional scoping, we covered global scoping, we covered lexical, we covered block level scoping, and also hoisting means like it's guest hoist on the top. Now let's see that what is called lexical scoping. All right, so for that, what I'm going to do, let me say I have a function called add. And in add, I'm passing num1, all right? And then I have one more function called add intern. In that, I'm passing num2. And here, let's say that I'm saying let result equal to num1 plus num2. And let's say that return result. All right, so when you see that in JavaScript, the nested function, the child function, has access to the variable of the parent function. So num1 is the variable of parent function, argument in the parent function add, and you can access that inside this child function, and you can access that. And that is called lexical scoping. Okay, so lexical scoping allows child function to access variables and everything of the parent function. That is called lexical scoping. Now lexical scoping is very important for the closure. So when in JavaScript there is something called closure. Closure is nothing but a concept and object. What closure says that closure comes to the action, closure comes to the picture when you return a function from another function. So here, if I say return add intern, right? So you see that I'm returning a function from add function. It means closure would come to the action. Now what closure says that to return this function, please understand, to return this function, first we have to create this function. So what closure says that when you create this function, whatever is the variable in this environment, when that function was created, which you are returning, closure says that function is going to remember the environment. The function is going to remember. So when add intern would be created, there should be some value of num1, and add intern would remember the value of num1. And that concept is called closure. So when you return a function from another function, closure comes to the action, and it remembers the environment in which it was created. So here you see that I say, let's say that let a equal to add, and I'm passing 8. So I know that this add actually returns a function, right? Add intern. So we'll say console dot log a. Oof. Oh, sorry, it should be function. All right. So here you see that it says you that hey, a is add intern. All right. So here I can say let b equal to a, and then in that case I can pass another value 7 and say console dot log b, and I'm getting 15. So I can combine these together. I know that this add is returning me value. So I can say add 87, and it should able to give me the output 15. Now let's go and take this and say let a and b, and then you pass add, let's say 18 and 17. Now you see that there are two add intern would be returned. So when first time for the a it is being returned, the value of the environment in num1 is 8. And for the second time, the value is 18. And JavaScript remembers that. That concept is called closure. And that's why you are getting different outputs, 15 and 35 and on. And sometimes we can do in detail about closure, but closure and lexical scope goes hand to hand. So this is about closure and lexical scope. So I guess we covered that. We covered this. All right. I'm not sure how we are doing at the time. We have covered all about the functions. Maybe sometimes some other day we'll do about the objects. I'm happy to take questions now if you have any question. But before you go, before that, what I will do, this is my blog debugmode.net. And if you go to in this blog, there is a JavaScript section. I have written around 66 blog posts on JavaScript, and you can find everything which can be very useful for you, like why to use new.target, how to use for loop, and everything. JavaScript is a 30 years old language. So of course, we cannot cover everything in 1.5 hours, but I hope I am able to add some value, able to give you some guidance and direction that in which direction you should go and learn JavaScript. I strongly recommend you that learn JavaScript from this website if you can do, and let me open that for you. So go to tc39.es and we'll share this URL, and here you can go and learn about everything you want to learn. This is the official spec document of JavaScript, and if once you have start making sense of this document, you will never have to guess anything in JavaScript. All right, so please try to understand this. Try to learn JavaScript from this document. You can go and search here. So for example, you go and search here object.entries. It will open object.entries for you. And it has only this explanation of object.entries, only 3 lines. So that also you have to keep in mind. But everything is in that 3 lines. What I explained to you in the beginning of our talk, that let obj be a toObject. Now, if you don't know what is toObject, go and open that. So it will explain you what is toObject. First, you need to know that. Once that is there, you understood line number 1. Then it says that let name list be a question mark. Question mark means it could be a null as well. Enumerable own properties. Then open that. What is that? Then return create array from list. So you might have seen millions of blog posts, millions of videos, millions of documents about object.entries. But if someone is able to make sense of these 3 lines, that person does not have to go to any books or anywhere to learn what is object.entries. And today in the beginning, if you remember, I started teaching you in that approach, that first is toObject. So first, if you go to the toObject, see what it is saying. The abstract operation. Abstract means this operation is not available to us. This operation is internal. And you remember, if you are from the beginning, that if it is an undefined and null, throw a type error. Remember that we were getting the type error when we passed object passed undefined inside object.entries. Then it says that if you pass the primitive types, it will return you the object of that type, and if you pass the object, it will return you the argument. So you see how easy it is once you start learning from here. Then it says you that that what is the enumerable own properties name, own keys, properties, and it is just 2-3 days of work once you understand these things. Like for example, when I learn now, I don't have to go and see what is two object, because I already know two objects. So anywhere I can see two object, I can go and I know what two object is going to return me. So I strongly recommend you that look into this official document, and you should be able to understand that. One more thing is that it is very popular saying that learn by doing, learn by doing. You don't learn JavaScript by doing. JavaScript is like language C. You remember in your college days, you took that data structure in C and or letter C and pen and paper and sat in your library and started writing that how if a statement works, how switch statement works, how for loop works, how pointer works. No one learned a pointer by writing direct code, right? So JavaScript is like C language. It is not a framework. It is not it is not which is going to give you an instant output. All right, so take a pen and paper, take a documentation like that official doc, or the book of Getify. You don't know JavaScript and all that, and try to learn it on pen and paper, and you should able to master it. So before I take questions, for I'll take 7-8 questions. Thank you so much, everyone. My name is Dhananjay Kumar. I guess I have written that here. Yeah, my name is Dhananjay Kumar. I'm a Microsoft MVP and a Google developer expert. And I'm founder of Geek 97. What Geek 97 does, we provide trainings on Azure, on JavaScript, on Angular, on React, all these technologies. And if you need, or if you, so for example, today only we completed one Geek 97 batch of Angular masterclass. So if your company or your organization needs that training, or if you need a training, you can contact us. And in the market, Geek 97 Angular certificates are really getting very recognized, and companies are looking for that. I have shown you my blog, debugmode.net. Please subscribe to this channel, Geek 97 channel. In this channel, you can find the videos of NG India, and we put a lot of videos here, which could be very useful for you. For example, how to master. We started RxJS master series, and what is generator. So if you see this video, you can see that how much people are loving these videos. That so please subscribe to these channels, and that would be a great motivation for me. I'm very proud of NG India. NG India is a community of all of us. It is now one of the world's largest Angular conference, and I would be not wrong if I would say that it is now one of the among top 4 or 5 conferences in the world. This time we had around 700 people, and Hiren was there in the conference, and we are going to open it beyond Angular. We are going to include other front-end technologies as well. So please be a member of this NG India community. And if you have anything, you can email me at debugmode@outlook.com, or you can add me on LinkedIn as well. You can find me Dhananjay Kumar. So thank you so much. I hope it was useful. Now, Hiren, over to you to take the questions.
Right. So yes, that was a really helpful session, and I enjoyed a lot personally. I'm a very big fan of your teaching styles, and it was as usual magnetic teaching style, I would say, right? So yeah, here is some feedback I'm going to share on the screen. People are saying about your session. So as you can see, we are getting really good feedback. Okay, guys. Now, if you have any questions related to JavaScript, please do put it in the comments so I can share with Dhananjay sir, and we can take some questions. We already have few questions, so let me just share. I think this is already your shared, right? Official document of APN,
Yeah,
right?
in the last I just saw that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll give you
So
that URL. You can put in the comment as well. Description
sure.
of,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, and Okay, I think this is one more question, but I think it will need some time. JavaScript promises an async task.
Yeah, maybe. Can I say that next Saturday, 7 p.m., we are doing NG India webinar on the same topic. So
Okay,
please join us, and we'll go into the detail of that.
okay. This is also we have covered. Can we say example of
Yeah, we
construct?
covered that. We
Yes.
covered that.
Okay.
Using the new operator Prachi, when you call a function, it creates a new object, mm,
Right.
uh, and and that's the newly created object you get.
Okay. Right. So here are some more comments. Okay, guys, if you have any questions on JavaScript, please put it on the comment. Or anyways, if you have any questions in future, you can reach out to Dhananjay sir on Twitter or LinkedIn. He will definitely answer all your questions. Right. So I think we don't have any more questions, sir. So we can then wrap it up. It was really a good session, sir. And as we have discussed, for the topics which are not covered in this session, we can definitely would like to have you again with us, where we can cover the rest of the topics which are not covered here. And of course, you have many more such suggestions which you can tell us that this is
No, no, I
something.
just want to say in the last, like GDC Ahmedabad, and like I started my speaking from Ahmedabad. Ahmedabad is like my
Yes,
second home. So GDC Ahmedabad, I can see you and the team is really doing very good. And thank you so much for the invitation. And I hope you'll work more for the benefit of community together.
yes, definitely. Thank you for your kind words. And yes, so I think we can wrap it over here. And we would definitely like to have one more session where all these topics which are
We'll
not
go
covered.
Austin Kuna JavaScript in that
Yes,
promises
exactly.
and those things. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. All right.
Okay,
So
man.
yes, yeah. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you everyone for watching the session. In case still you have any question, do put in the question. Do mail us or reach out on the Twitter, and definitely we will answer those questions. Right. So thank you once again for joining. Stay safe, and we'll see you in the next event very soon. Thank you, sir. Bye.